Why are people so uptight about this thing? We would think it's as simple as hair, but it's not. It ties into racism, it ties into sexism, it ties into colorism, it ties into white supremacy, standards of beauty. It's, oh my God, why does it, something that is so simple, have to be so complex all the freaking time? And then people want to wonder why we get mad and upset, because we are digesting these things every single day of our lives. And it's not get over it, it's not stop whining. These are issues that really need to be addressed. And because it's not something that you experience, or you don't feel that it's a big deal, it is for us. It's stressful, people.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Walt, and I would like to welcome you to Boss Locks, the show where we are redefining professionalism and proving that natural hair and professionalism do coexist. Now, today I have the honor and privilege of speaking to Janay Anderson. Janay, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling, on a Monday too. I'm feeling kind of energized and everything. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good, because Monday sometimes takes a minute to get started.
It does. It's usually a drag, but I'm trying to flip it, trying to flip the mindset and everything.
There you go. Positive thinking.
Yeah. All right. So for those who don't know, Janay is a mother, wife, entrepreneur, coach, and author of an amazing children's book called I Love My Curls. Now, this book has been the talk of the town, like literally everywhere. I've seen her on the news talking about it, and it's been received so well. I've heard different people speaking about it. Like literally before I told my girlfriend about who I'm interviewing, she was like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Like, oh really? So yeah, this book is amazing. And I think honestly think it's a great resource for everybody of all ages. It is a children's book, but I think everyone can learn something from it. But it should be hair type, age, there is lessons for everybody. So Janay, one, thank you for creating such an amazing book. And I have a bunch of questions to ask you as well too. But before we get into everything, I would just like to start with one thing. I like to ask everybody one question to get started. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. What are 3 things that most people don't know about you?
I have 2 daughters. Most people may not know, if they don't know me well, that there is a 15-year gap between my girls. And I could have been home free, but we decided to have another one. And so my oldest is 21 and the youngest is 5. So it's funny because I have my oldest is a senior at Howard University and will be graduating this year. And then the 5-year-old is entering into kindergarten. So they're definitely at 2 different milestones in their lifespan here. But a second thing most people don't know, that I am a comedian at heart. I am witty. I have a sense of humor that most people who don't really know me may not know. I have been told on many occasions, you seriously need to do an open mic night, but my biggest fear is there's a difference when you're sitting around with people and you're pulling your wit and your comedic spirit from those situations that are happening in front of you versus being on a stage in front of people who could boo you to oblivion.
Right.
Makes it different. So I think that's that fear. But I had said to myself, 2020 was going to be my year of the yes and not the no. But Corona, has totally destroyed all that. So, but I do definitely think at one point I'm going to be brave enough to do. And I would say, thirdly, when we talk about natural hair, this whole journey, the book, the one thing that really started it, the core thing, was that I had fibroids. And it's something that a lot of Black women suffer with. I was not aware of it. I was silently and unknowingly suffering as far back as my younger 20s, and with a lot of the symptoms that fibroids bring about. And there's still some back and forth in the medical world about what causes such a high rate of Black women to have fibroids. But one of the commonalities in the thought processes goes towards the fact that the things that we use on our hair. And one of those main things is the relaxer. So
Right.
that was the thing that really seriously made me start to say, health wise, this is something that maybe you need to start paying more attention to, the things that we use in our hair, the things that we put into our bodies and on our bodies. So,
Wow. Interesting. So, hmm, did you, growing up, did you guys go to the doctor often?
we did go to the doctor
You
pretty
did?
often,
Okay,
for checkups
gotcha.
and things like that.
I was wondering because I know oftentimes I think that a lot of people we kind of live and walk around with these like illnesses and everything. We just never even know because oftentimes, like I know my family growing up, we there's a period of time where we went to a chiropractor, but that's not
Hmm.
like doctor to do all the X-rays and everything like that.
Yeah,
So a lot of times we have something going on and we're just like, oh, it's nothing, kind of get through it, but it's like some
yeah.
serious stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was those types of things also happened in my family, but I think,
Hmm.
what our family, and maybe in other people's families, that we don't always often talk about things that we suffer with, when it comes to especially women's health. We don't talk about if our periods are light, if they're heavy, if there's pain with those periods, if that's normal or it's not normal. It's just like, okay, well, maybe your period's just heavier this month. It was never those conversations that were had. And before getting fibroids, I did not know that there were other women in my family that were suffering with
Hmm.
fibroids. I thought I was the first one, and actually, I'm an identical twin. My sister was the first one to find out that she had fibroids. So of course, I did my due
Oh.
diligence after speaking with her. Like, well, genetically, we are the same person. Let me make sure that I am okay because I am experiencing some of these things that you are experiencing as well. And come to find out, I absolutely did have them. So yeah, that was really surprising to me. So I make sure, when I'm speaking to especially my oldest daughter, that these are things, your young 20s, that you really need to make sure, when you're having those annual appointments and whatnot, that you really need to stress this because it could be something that you're going to struggle with because you're predisposed. Because I was.
All right. Hmm.
Mhm.
And also, before we continue, can you explain what thyroids are for those who don't know?
Fibroids basically are small tumors. They could be both non-cancerous or cancerous. Mine in particularly were growing along my fallopian tubes. I had one that actually, I think they ended up removing 7. They were very, very small. The smallest being the size of my pinky nail.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, but they can cause a lot of havoc. They cause me to feel bloated all the time. They cause me to have irregular periods and very heavy periods that would keep me in bed. They cause a little bit of weight gain for me because I'm carrying all these things inside and I did not
Hmm.
know what they were. I just assumed, because when a woman gets her monthly, these are symptoms that we get. So if no one
Yeah.
if I, yeah, if I wasn't really educated about, I've heard about fibroids, but it just wasn't one of those conversations where I really knew a lot about it. I just, like I said, I was silently suffering. And so that's what fibroids are. And they can cause fertility issues, which they did for me later on in life. And that's one of the biggest problems because we're finding out that there are young women who are not even thinking about having kids yet, but they're causing a lot of issues when it comes to fertility. Because they're
Hmm.
blocking your fallopian tubes. You may not be able to carry a child. There's so many things like endometriosis that are correlated. It's such a layered thing, and I don't think there's enough conversation being had about how to prevent this. If it's environmental, is it a genetic disposition? Is it all the above? So it's something definitely when Black women are being affected the most. It is definitely a conversation that needs to be had and something that we really need to make sure that we're including in these discussions when we go to our gynecologist appointments.
Right. Yeah, for real, because those symptoms are things that could like easily be written off as just like normal, like, oh, I don't know, it's just
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah,
of course, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know which one's like, but yeah. Man, that's very interesting. And I
Mhm.
think that I'm really glad you shared that because I think, and I mean, you know this, but like when it comes to like going to healthcare specialists and everything, oftentimes, and I would say probably more so for Black women, from what I've heard, but
Yeah.
um, just people aren't being taken seriously. It's just kind of
They
written off
are.
like, oh, it's just this pain, like, oh, it's just like you say, heavy period this month, you know, just maybe take this and go on about your business.
Exactly, because it takes me back to I remember with one particular doctor, they tried to sort of write it off in that way for me, like, oh no, it's just normal. Maybe you're a little stressed. I'm like, dude, I'm not stressed. I think I know
Hmm.
when I'm stressed. I said, this is not normal. This is not something that seems normal, and
Right.
I really had to advocate and I really had to push and I had to somewhat say, listen, if you're not going to listen to me, I will find someone who will. And that's exactly what I did. And I ended up finding um, a doctor on my journey to, you know, um, dealing with the fibroids who looked like me and she totally understood and took the time and went over and beyond. So I was blessed in that way. But that doesn't happen for everybody. And I did not feel until I met um, her that I was really being taken seriously. And the funny story behind that, this particular doctor, her name is Dr. Bud. She's a triplet. Um,
Oh, dang.
yeah, right. And every one, she's a triplet, so she's a endocrinologist. She has another sister that does something else in the medical field, and another one that's like this big time engineer. So their parents did a wonderful job with them. But the
Right?
funny thing, Dr. Butts was the intern when I gave birth to my oldest daughter.
Whoa.
How strange is that? Do you think
Man,
that
meant
was
to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
definitely meant to be. Life definitely, when people say life does definitely comes full circle, that was the irony in it all. And she definitely opened my eyes and put me on a path to, really take your life and your health a bit more serious. Not that I was suffering from anything other, but I think sometimes when you're going through your youth, sometimes we feel like we're a little bit invincible and we'll just keep pushing and we won't really take things seriously until it's a little bit too late. And that's kind of what happened to me until it was a point of contention in my life, because I was trying to have a child and it was affecting that process. That's when I really started to really pay serious attention to it. And yeah, but
Hmm. Listen up, everyone. I know you've been asking about how you can support besides listening, and it's been a minute, but I finally have something for you. You can now join me in the BossLocks Village. It's a Patreon group that you could join to get exclusive content, be the first to find out about new shows, and even find opportunities to be a part of the show. There's a lot of cool things that I'm ready to do, excited to launch, and the BossLocks Village will be the first place to hear about it. So once again, go to BossLocks.org and look for the link to learn how to join. But you'll want to act fast, because the very first 3 people to join the village and leave a podcast review will get a free, never before seen original Boss Locks shirt. And I mean really new, like it's not even on our site yet. So right now, stop what you're doing, go to BossLocks.org, that is BossLocks.org, to learn how to join. Thank you. Now back to our show.
yeah.
Man, do you, so I think it's so interesting that you not only said, no, this is serious and this is not what you like, to the first doctor who wrote you
Mhm.
off. And not only do you say, no, you need to take me seriously, but you went out and sought another opinion.
Mhm.
Um, do you know, like, what was it that made you feel strongly about what you're experiencing and kind of gave you the confidence to be like, no, this is not right. I need someone else.
I definitely listened to my body and intuition. Some things said, you've been dealing with this for a long time. You start to put things into perspective, and I just could not ignore it anymore. I knew and I felt that something was wrong. My body was telling me that something was wrong. I wasn't feeling well, you know. I have this bloated stomach and I'm working out every day. I'm not used to this bloated stomach. I got 6 packs here. Right now, I'm looking like I'm 2 months pregnant. And for what? I'm eating healthy. There's no reason I'm not eating a lot of dairy, those things that would bloat my stomach. Understand what I'm saying? So I knew that something was wrong. And I was fearful that it was like maybe like cancer. So for a minute, I kind of, had to toy with that idea, but thank God it was not. It was fibroids. The fibroids were not cancerous. They were simply removed. There was one particular fibroid that was blocking one of my tubes, and the way the doctor described it when they were doing the surgery to remove them is that it was like a straw. Imagine if you pinched a straw and then you took your fingers off and it just opens again. That's what my tube did. So it was the fibroids. That was one of the things that was preventing me, from conceiving. But it's just I had to listen to my body. No one's going to tell me when I'm not feeling well that it's kind of like in my head and to just keep writing it off. What if it was cancer? That time is of the essence. A stage 1 can turn into a stage 4. So it's unfortunate that for whatever reason, we are sort of written off, or it's these stereotypes that we don't feel pain, or women are emotional, and we're making these things up. And I think when it comes to Black women, and especially when the doctors don't look like us, that sometimes, unfortunately, those biases, those stereotypes, and those prejudices do come through when they are providing, when they should be providing you medical services, and they should be making sure that they're going over and beyond, and they should be listening to you, because guess what? You are paying them and you are going to them because you are not a doctor. You know that you feel that something's wrong. So tell me something, so it was unfortunate. It worked out.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We are paying them, whether we come back with any solution or any further advancement in what we're trying to figure out. Like, they're gonna come to you with that bill afterwards, so might as well be for something.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I realize I'm in the dark. It just got super dark outside. It's crazy. Gonna go through another thunderstorm.
There you go.
Yep. All right, man. Okay, so that's really cool. I think it'd be really cool to have the Black doctors kind of come together and put together this checklist of things that we need to ask when we go get our kind of physicals or regular checkups done.
You do. And, we don't have to stand for someone who is not taking us seriously. Like I said, we have families who love us. We have things we need to do. Life is precious. And I think we all should be valued, and it to be treated in such a way where you feel dismissed and undervalued it's just unacceptable. Just unacceptable.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it's funny. I mean, that's part of why like this podcast exists, because it was of course, mostly in regards to like job interviews, but just like with the knowledge that companies at a federal level, they could legally just dismiss you just based on your hair type is it's one's ridiculous, it's disrespectful, but it does a lot more than just like reject you from this job application. When you're being dismissed in any sort of field, they could get to you and start to over time just eat away at your how you look at yourself and your self-esteem.
Absolutely. I used to work in human resources, and I saw it all the time. I've had people, directors come to me and say when a young man or woman is wearing their hair natural, that I can't send them to this floor because that's where all the execs are, and their hair looks unkempt. You're telling a Black person that another Black person, her brother or sister, really?
Right.
So then, I have to remind them, we work in HR. Do you realize what you just said? And it just became this thing for me where I'm too real of a person, and I don't care if I lose my darn job or not. I'm going to let you know when wrong is wrong and right is right. You understand what I'm saying? And then it's like this thing, do I pull this person to the side and give them this tea, because you want to, we want to stay united, or am I doing too much? Or like, how can I, quote unquote, warn this person that these types of discussions are being had about them? But then on the other hand, it's like, it's hair. Why are you people so offended when you have people who are not Black coming in here with piercings, tattoos, green hair, purple hair, shaved off hair, looking like they just rolled out of bed, but we can't wear our hair the way it grows in our
Right.
hair, regardless of texture. I just could not understand it, and I had to exit.
Right.
The resources field. It just the whole administrative business environment. That's always been the environment that I've worked in. I've done many different types of positions, but that was the last. Human resources was the last period of employment for me, and
Oh,
I
really?
just was like, it's just nothing's changing. I'm evolving, and this is
Right.
not, I can't sit here and be a part of this any longer. It's it's some of the things. It's serious. Some people may not be surprised, but some people would be really surprised. Those conversations that are being had about you and your hair, as
Mm.
as a Black person. But I think for me, in the workplace, I never directly had someone say anything about my hair, but I will say, in as far as like changing it or anything, but I have been, and I call it a victim because I really think this is a form of harassment that no one wants to talk about. When someone comes up to you, you have box braids, they want to touch your hair, or you come in with your locks, they want to touch your hair, or they want to ask all these questions. How long did that take? This, that, and the third. That's harassment. This is not what we're supposed to be doing at work. And when other
Hmm.
people come in with a haircut, you're not walking up on them in their personal space, asking these questions, reaching your hand out without permission, taking valuable minutes of my workday when I need to be working, asking
Right.
me questions about my hair. And for some people, it's not that serious, but for me, it's that serious because if we're going to condemn people and punish people and fire people and have laws to protect people against sexual harassment, why can't we be protected about our hair? It's not nice. It's very stressful. It was very stressful to me because sometimes when I lived in the Midwest, I was the only Black person in the building,
Right.
so not just one person coming. I got to deal with about 25 people every
Right. Whole
day.
company. Hmm.
Exactly. And now I'm thinking, when I go get my hair done, what am I going to do to prevent that? And that's just, we got enough things on our shoulders as, Black men and women than to have to go to work and deal with one more thing like that. Like, it just gets to a point where it's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Very true. Man, yeah, I like the way you put it. It really is harassment. I think people, when they hear certain words, they just automatically associate it with one type of action or behavior. But harassment, as a whole, just involves so many different things that we just don't even was even thinking about. And I definitely agree. Hair, just the way people approach, observe, interact around other people's hair is just ridiculous, and specifically how they act around Black people's hair. Like I
Exactly.
like yeah, I've definitely been the one Black person in certain environments, like most of my life until I moved to Atlanta. But yeah, it's just um the entitlement, I think, that kind of comes with it, and they'll just say whatever, like, oh wow, it's just like carpet. I think, like, before I had locks and my hair was just kind of
What?
short, they're just like, yeah, just like carpet. I mean, these were like
Oh,
younger people, but yeah, people just say whatever, and
out their
especially when
mouth.
they just are not around Black people a lot. Like,
Yes.
they just say whatever. They're just like, it's almost like a little kid that that's just like met with all these toys and they go crazy, like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's
And,
insane.
you get to a point where there used to be a point where I would try to be nice, but then as I age and as I experience this more and more, I'm like, why am I shielding them for their ignorance? You understand what I'm saying? Like, why am I being apologetic? Why am I allowing myself to be felt to be made to feel uncomfortable, maybe I should just give a little of that energy back. So I would sort of make them feel uncomfortable, and I would start these discussions with people to help them understand that, you know what, you just don't walk up to people culturally. That's unacceptable. We like Black people, we don't do that. If you want to touch my hair, just like you would be speaking to a preschool, student, if you would like to touch my hair, if you have any questions, then do that. You don't reach out and touch my hair. This is my personal space. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Please don't do that. And that's how I would make, and you would see they would turn every shade of red. And it wasn't that I was being rude, but you don't understand how rude and how intrusive your behavior is to me. So I'm just supposed to take it and answer all your questions and quote unquote Black explain everything about my hair. I just, as I got older, I began to say, no, that is not fair for me. It's not fair for me to just accept it. It's not acceptable, because if I don't tell you, then the next person may not react as calmly as I'm acting. So not only am I giving you an education, which once again is not my responsibility, but I'm going to grant you this one time, but I'm also maybe saving you a butt whooping in the in the future, because everyone is not okay, and everyone is not comfortable with that. And like to your point, where does that come from, this privilege that you can just touch us like we're animals in the zoo? Or maybe that's the problem. Maybe they don't equate us with being human. Maybe they do some subconsciously feel that they have the right to do that, but you don't. You don't. I can't. Wouldn't it be weird if I just walked up to you and touched your hair and I don't know you, washed your hands? I mean, no, it's just strange. It's a strange behavior, but it continues to happen, and I think it happens out of curiosity. But I do think that people need to be checked, on that. It's very important.
I agree with you, because there's nothing wrong with asking questions, kind of like you mentioned. Nothing wrong, and like I'm fine talking about hair and explaining certain things, but it's I think people really, you're right, kind of need to get checked and realize. It's funny that they don't just realize this naturally, but
Yes.
understand that not everyone is okay with everything. Like I actually, even me, like I'm usually fine talk about my hair, but not with just anybody. It's like it's very contextual. It's about that relationship, especially in the
Exactly.
workplace too. Like if I don't even know
Yeah.
you, like
Right. I got stuff to do. Why are we
yeah,
spending wasting my
um,
time?
yeah.
It's strange.
hmm Yeah. So one thing you mentioned is like when you started to kind of say no more, and decided to not like straight up make people uncomfortable, but kind of give some of that energy back. How were those like? What were those interactions like?
For some people, they were very embarrassed and apologetic because they did not think about it. It was a genuine curiosity because it's something different than what they are used to. And like you said, especially when you're in a space where there is not a lot of Black people, and maybe they don't have enough interactions or have made a friendship or have some type of rapport where someone can sort of answer those questions and sort of dim those curiosities. They sort of got ahead of themselves and they just, oh,
Mhm.
it's here, and oh my gosh, and let me touch it, kind of like a kid in a candy store. But then there were some people who got a bit of an attitude, but I mean, that's not my problem. You're not going to invade my space because you had no problem and you cared nothing about how that made me feel. It makes me for me personally, it makes me feel less than that. Like you said, you didn't even respect me enough to ask just a question or to ask permission to touch, or you know what I mean. You just did it as if, so what? And no, so why am I? We have to get away from that space where we want to be apologetic all the time. And I have, friends, who are Black friends, who those types of situations, it just doesn't bother them. It's, oh, it's not that deep. Just let them touch your hair. No, you do what you do. I'm going to do what I do. I don't think it's comfortable. And in the sad thing, even like with my 5-year-old, we all have different hair textures in here. My 5-year-old has like more of a finer, spirally type of texture of hair, and I'm trying to get through the line in the drugstore, and a woman of Indian descent, she's a woman from India, said to me, "Is that her natural curls? Is that her natural hair?" I'm like, "Dude, she's 5. Yes,
Right.
it's her natural hair because they only have one idea about what our hair is. It has to be one texture. It has to look one way. And I guess she didn't understand that. No, our hair is just as diverse as anyone else. And we can have kinks, we can have coils, we can have straight hair, wavy hair, long hair, short hair. Like it just was like, okay, of course my
Right.
5-year-old is not understanding this, but I'm understanding this. And I'm like, when she gets old enough to understand the context nature of what just happened, how is she going to internalize that interaction? It's not a good one, because now you begin to question, well, why did she say that to me? Why would she assume that because my hair is naturally this way, and why would she assume that it's not mine, or why would she question this, or why would she question that? And it becomes this whole thing that kids should not even have to discuss or think about. When you're a kid, it's all about being fun, correct, and learning. But
Right.
people unintentionally and with their ignorance and stereotyping place these negative things, and messages that to our children, and then here we are as adults discussing natural hair, and how we
Right.
have to navigate the world with it. And it's such an unfortunate thing. And I think this is one of the other reasons what made me want to focus more on the younger children, because I think that's where a lot of these negative messages are internalized much more than the positive messages when it comes to our hair.
That's very true. Very, very true. I know. Yeah, I remember there's all sorts of conversations like when I was younger I had with my cousin, just talking about like hair and like just comparing our hair to like the white kids' hair and everything like that. It's deep, and like as kids, like you're like still just learning about the world. So sometimes you can't even be
Yeah.
like, no, it shouldn't be that way. It's just like, okay, this is
Mhm.
how it is. I'm not like this. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes you feel up like you're an alien, kind of. That's
Hmm.
like you're different from everybody else when and when you're a kid, like you said, you don't even. I don't think we focus on those things when we were a kid. Everyone, okay, you want to play trucks, you want to go to the playground, let's go. No one's caring, what your hair looks like, what color you are. These things are learned behaviors, but I don't think people realize when it comes to our children that those types of experiences definitely affects our self-esteem and the way that we operate, because we get it from all directions, man. And it's just
Hmm.
unfortunate, that it starts that young.
Yeah. So in your work, because you're also a hair coach, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. How well, I guess before I ask this, can you explain like what exactly a hair coach is, or what do you do as a hair coach?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely what I do as a hair coach. I deal specifically with people who are trying to either um, move into their natural hair journey. They're trying to figure out the best way to begin that process. I deal with multicultural families where you have a mother or a father who is trying to learn how to care for their children's hair that is unlike their own, or people who are in their natural hair journey and trying to figure out, what's the best products to use on their hair, how to better care for it, grow it rather, and so it's all these different conversations that are going on, and also just, to build children's self-esteem and their parents' self-esteem, because there's a lot that we don't understand about our natural hair. So these are the types of conversations that happen, because it's funny to think, well, it's your hair, don't you know how to care for it? No, we don't. If we're spending our whole lives altering it for various reasons, to survive in this environment, and with this culture that defines what is beautiful and what's acceptable, then you don't really know. You don't know what's underneath that relaxer. You don't really know if you're wearing wigs and all you do is wash your hair and braid it back, and then you actually are forced to deal with your natural texture. It's hard. It's an adjustment. There's different curl patterns, and there's different high porosity versus low porosity, which means that there may be different products that may work for one that does not work for you. Like I mentioned, my daughter has more of a finer texture, but she's definitely a 4A, 4B girl with maybe some finer textures mixed in, but I can't use like heavy oils and things on her hair because it will like just weigh down her hair. My other daughter, her hair is thicker and a little bit more of a coily, kinkier texture. So there's different things that she can get. I have all three, so so on certain sections of my hair, I may have to do something different. So these are the types of things. It's trial and error. It's teaching parents, because I have a lot of mothers who work, in corporate America where they have to wear wigs, they have to wear weaves because that environment does not welcome natural hair. And it's this belief that, hey, if you want to move up, you have to conform and you have to change your hair. But yet you're telling your children, you have to, celebrate your natural beauty, but you're not. So I'm a big believer that children are, they become what they live. So some people have gone on that journey to say, look, I'm coming to work. I am performing everything that is being asked of me. My hair should not determine my success. And they have made a decision to rid themselves of the wigs, of the weaves, of the relaxers, and enjoy and learn and take that journey along with their children. So, and just because I preach natural hair, love your natural self. Look, I've fried, dyed, and laid my hair to the side in the past. So I've done it all, but I just think, we have to get to a point where, you have to be comfortable in your own skin. And especially when you become a parent, now it's not just about you, it's about, being the best example of what you want your children to sort of become. And to feel good about it. And how can I tell you, to do one thing and I'm doing something that's totally the opposite? I think that they would always sort of contradict, what you're telling them, so, but that's basically what I do with the coaching there. So.
Very cool. What incredible service too. You get like a lot just through. It's so interesting how like when you speak about natural hair, on a few episodes ago with Fando Kafele, he was talking about how technically he is a loctician and stylist, but really calls himself a self-esteem specialist. And he says that when he talks about natural hair, he always says like he cannot and will not talk about natural hair without talking about the culture and the meaning behind it, because it's almost like doing a disservice. Like you could tell people use this products, use this, but there's so much more with it just in everyday life, society, and also just how it can really heal everything else with your body as well.
Yeah, it definitely is, because I think for us, and this is why I think anybody can relate to loving yourself and appreciating your natural self. But I think when it comes to specifically Black people that, and I say Black people purposely because this is who I am. I'm Black, and and I'm going to use that word because it's my voice, and I feel that sometimes as a writer and as a advocate and as a coach, I am the voice for people who are not brave enough to speak. And I think that there really is a mindset, and it is a mindset that has to be shifted because we are living in a society that tells us that there's something wrong with our hair. I don't know too many other groups that have actual laws being enacted to say that this is wrong, to let us wear our natural hair. Why am I being told that I have to cover my hair up and alter it just to conform? So it is definitely, before I begin coaching with people, there is a lot of discussions about what do you think about natural hair? What are some of the words that were used, by your parents? What were some of your experiences? Because it's a painful experience. It's a painful experience, so painful. I don't even like to really personally use the word nappy because it triggers me in
Right.
a way, because it was used so much in my family. And I know, you know, that's how they grew up and it was okay. And it's just what we say as Black folk. But nah, man, that really took the whole nappy, good hair. I can't. I can't. It just triggers me in a way, because it it really chips away at your self-esteem. It makes you feel okay, because if I don't, quote unquote, have this texture hair that's being referred to as good hair, am I bad?
Right.
Am I not beautiful? Is my hair not beautiful? And so it begins this cycle of pain and self-esteem, and then we start layering those things with colorism. It's a lot. It's a lot that I don't think other people have to deal with as much as we do, and we have to sort of peel back the layers before we can get to the basic stuff, like products and things, because you have to open up, because you can't shift if you don't understand the trauma. And when you are told all the time that there's something wrong with your hair, especially for us girls who fall into that 4A, 4B, the kinky stuff, I think sometimes there's a lot there. There's a lot there
Yeah.
that needs to be unleashed and spoken about, so you can release some of that, and it opens up the space to really feel the freedom to appreciate your hair, not to care what other people say. You can dispose all myths and all those feelings that put you in this bag of, I have to do this and do that to my hair to be accepted and to feel beautiful. So that is the main thing that I do first, because we got to talk about it all. We can't just talk about, okay, I'm ready to start my natural hair journey. Okay, but why are you doing it? Why are we here? What are your viewpoints? Because when you don't deal with those things, it's so easy to go back to doing some of those, old things, like, wearing wigs or relaxing it, or, feeling ashamed if you do the big chop to start your natural hair journey. Now you're feeling, because my hair is not longer anymore, if I don't have silky hair, a silky wig on or whatever, now I'm feeling like I look like a dude, or because there's studies that say when Black women make this transition into wearing their natural hair, there's two factors. Usually it's the opinion of their significant other, or the type of career that they've chosen. That determines a lot of why a Black woman chooses to enter into this natural hair journey or not.
Interesting.
Interesting. Huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
I didn't realize that, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I've heard a lot of stories about just in relationships where a certain partner, they're like, no, don't change your hair like this. You look ugly, or like this or
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, it's a lot of toxicity out there all
It is.
around. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. And I liked what you were saying about words, and like the certain words you will not use.
Mm-hmm.
From like using black instead of people of color or persons of color.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on that, I feel like everyone, I feel like persons of color, people of color is good as a way like to like everyone come together for certain
Mm-hmm.
causes, but we start having conversations about hair. It's very important to say things like black. I
Yeah.
think every culture should use their own um, kind of races specifically, because it gives a lot more energy and
Yeah.
clarity to the issues and the experience that's happening.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah,
agree.
especially like with the Crown Act.
Yeah.
I mean that bill that touches everybody. That's
Mm-hmm.
it's all encompassing, and it comes from the Black experience. So when you start to get specific, then you can really go broader out. Just like you were saying, like once you kind of get specific to that issue, get to the roots of it, then you can start going into, okay, now these are the products you use, and you don't have to worry about going back.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm. I've another question with you about words. Well, two. Do you one thing I think is interesting is when so with this podcast, I'm starting to have more conversations with people from like all different races, and one word I keep hearing is ethnic, like our hair being referred to as ethnic hair. And
Mm.
I definitely have some thoughts about it, but I just wanted to hear when you hear that, like what kind of comes to mind.
Um, for me, it goes right back to the point I made earlier that it makes us feel different because you would be surprised to know that curly haired white women use the same products that we use, but are they considered ethnic? Why are we making it a separation? Hair is hair. A product should be a product and it should be put on the shelves accordingly. Another thing, I think it's another way to police us because unfortunately, when you go into some drugstores in particular communities, those items are locked. Now, I think
Mm,
Walmart just they were dragged really hard about doing this, and I believe that they are changing their policies and they are not allowed to lock their quote unquote ethnic products anymore. Um, so I think it's problematic. I think it creates this division, and it's something that people don't want to really address and talk about. But I feel if I'm going to be paying my money, I'm not going anywhere where um, I feel my products have to be put on a different shelf and furthermore locked away from me.
mhm.
I feel like I said, I know our curly hair white sisters, they use some of the same products that I use. Who knew? But they're not considered
Mhm.
ethnic, and they're coming here buying the same thing. So it speaks something differently to me. Maybe because I'm somewhere different in my journey than others. I pay attention to all things, and I come from a school of if we're going to talk about it, we're going to talk about it all. We have to hit all these issues. It does not make me feel good. It makes me. It's like if you, if I go into the drugstore, say if I figured, oh, I ran out of this particular product, nothing's open at the moment, and I run over to the corner drugstore. It's funny because they'll point you right over there to the ethnic section. Did I tell you I wanted? You don't know what I wanted. Just because you see what I'm saying. So
Right.
and then now I'm pissed off, like and annoyed. I'm
Right.
like, I didn't even tell you, ma'am or sir, what I wanted. You just assumed because I'm a black woman that I'm going over here to this ethnic section. And see what I mean? And it just feeds off of this, all these things that we've been talking about for this whole interview. It just feeds and ties right back into this discussion. Like, what are people thinking? Why are people so uptight about this thing? We would think it's as simple as hair, but it's not. It ties into racism, it ties into sexism, it ties into colorism, it ties into white supremacy, standards of beauty. It's oh my god, why does it something that is so simple have to be so complex all the freaking time? And then people want to wonder why we get mad and upset, because we are digesting these things every single day of our lives, and it's not get over it, it's not stop whining. These are issues that really need to be addressed, and because it's not something that you experience or you don't feel that it's a big deal, it is for us. It's stressful, people. It's stressful. It's very stressful to have to deal with that every single day of your life, even when you're doing simple things. So yeah, I'm not really with that, and I'm hoping that more retailers move in that direction that Walmart did, because all of us aren't okay with that. Hair products are
Yeah.
a hair product. Use what you use. What is it? What is ethnic? What does that mean? That to me, that's just like saying what normal is. What is normal? you know,
Right.
Almost. I mean, what does that mean? It's just one of those coin terms that it's just annoying and it's stupid. And let's do it. Let's get rid of those types of things.
Yeah. And also it's like being used improperly because I think the actual definition is just meaning a subgroup of the larger group. So,
Yeah.
like white people can be considered ethnic as well, but
Yeah, it's
used
yeah.
broadly.
See, there you go. It is just it's just
Mhm.
silly, and I'm like, well, if you're gonna go there, then just say black, black
Right.
hair products. Just
I would
like
love for it to be black hair. Call it that.
or something. I mean, if you're gonna go there and be, and be rude, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's just I just think that we become. I think some of this nonsense just becomes so normalized for us that we just accept it, if it's conscious or unconscious, or it's like I notice it, but what can I do? You know,
Mhm.
well, if you're working every day, making that money, and you go in here and you're patronizing these stores, then you have a voice. You better write that. You better write that, CEO.
Mhm.
Don't just put up with things. We should be valued. Our dollars should be valued. Our experiences should be valued. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I love it. Listen up, everyone. I know you've been asking about how you can support besides listening, and it's been a minute, but I finally have something for you. You can now join me in the Boss Locks Village. It's a Patreon group that you could join to get exclusive content, be the first to find out about new shows, and even find opportunities to be a part of the show. There's a lot of cool things that I'm ready to do, excited to launch, and the Boss Locks Village will be the first place to hear about it. So once again, go to BossLocks.org and look for the link to learn how to join. But you'll want to act fast because the very first 3 people to join the village and leave a podcast review will get a free, never before seen original Boss Locks shirt. And I mean really new, like it's not even on our site yet. So right now, stop what you're doing, go to BossLocks.org, that is BossLocks.org, to learn how to join. Thank you. Now back to our show. And I'm glad you shared the what you said about Walmart changing their policies, and it's so interesting because it made me realize like that's just a prime example of something like a simple decision that was made for whatever reasons, but it forces you to actually go and basically ask for permission to um, to use the tools and products to continue your natural journey. So it's like
Right.
once again another way for Black people to have to ask for permission from
Yeah.
authority
It
figures.
Yeah, and I have people be like, "Oh, you make everything." It's not gonna make everything so deep, but we can't just blindly do things, because I feel like we're moving in a direction where people are feeling more comfortable with protesting, like their feelings about their personal experiences. But I also think there's certain points, of contention that people just don't want to discuss either. Like I don't feel like you can just pick and choose. This is not like what is it called when you go into a restaurant, like all you can eat? It's not like a
Mhm.
smorgasbord, where, okay, I'm just going to eat some salad here, I'm going to eat a little chicken over here. No, man, like we have to I think all these things are correlated. Like we have to stop making things as if they're simple. Just because maybe one issue isn't big enough for you, it is for someone else. And we're all in this together, and we have to respect that. And in order to fight and to evoke change, I think it all has to be dealt with. It has to be dealt with. We can't pick and choose, because I feel when you cherry pick, I feel that it makes it harder to find solutions to correct the problem.
Mm, that's a good point.
Because
Yeah,
I
when you
don't.
just kind of pick the things you think you could do, like I could deal with this. I'll just only tackle that.
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
not one unified consensus on it all. You understand? Because then when you start to cherry pick, then you got a group over here that feels this way. Then you got a group over here. Like I hear people joke around and call people the shea butters. The shea butters are the people. Like I guess we're shea butters.
Yo, I
Well,
haven't heard that.
I guess we're shea butters. Because we're over here
Right.
talking about natural hair and this, that, and locks, and
And I'm cool
but
with it.
yeah, I'll be shade, I'll be that, but I'm
Right.
just saying, it puts us in these pocketed groups, and sometimes it makes it that much harder to have a unified front and bring all of these issues and these thoughts and these experiences to the forefront, like I said, to evoke change, and it makes it very difficult. And That's why I don't like that. Like I'm very much a person. If we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it all. You know, I don't have to agree with everything. Who cares? Okay, you believe something else, or this what I believe strongly is not that deep for you. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. But we both are Black, and we both share the same experiences. There's a lot of common experiences that we share, and but hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that we can't still support one another, even if you know our
Hmm.
opinions are different, or our points of views are different. I don't like that. It causes a lot of division, and I think that's why there's a lot of difficulty when it comes to discussing these types of issues amongst us. And why it's much
Right.
easier for those people who are not Black to make decisions for us. And
Mm.
that's never good when you make decisions for us as a group and you don't even understand the the context and the experience. So I think we need more of a unified front when it comes to these experiences, so we can come up with solutions and then present them and try to make it better for for our
Right.
baby, for us.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that reminds me of when was it? I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And man, I'm drawing a blank on the actual name of the company, but TI, there's a insurance company that insures things like singers' voices,
Oh,
and they're huge and global, like definitely off my level. But they've been around for so long that they actually insured slave owners. Basically, if slave
is it the
owners
Lord of
lost their
London? Is it
yeah,
Lord?
yeah.
Yeah.
Lords of
Okay.
London, yeah. And I just loved he was on the interview with the Breakfast Club, and he's talking about how he reached out to a whole bunch of people, just asked their opinions on this and this. So kind of like a communicative effort to send
Mhm.
out this letter kind of demanding like, okay, so you've apologized for your hand in this, so now let's talk about how you're going to make up for that. Kind of a way to hold people accountable, and just like you said, like he could have just gone out there and just did it himself. Like, no, I'm just going to do it my way.
Mhm.
This is how it needs to be done. But he might have missed a huge point. So, but he
Yeah.
reached out to a whole bunch of people, and together they came out
Yep.
stronger and made
Yep.
like national headlines. Have
See?
Forbes talking about it.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
See? That's what we have to do more of. But I see it happening, but you know,
Hmm.
we still are in this space sometimes, I feel, where this is what I think and this is no one's going
Right.
no one's going to my mind. I'm like, nah, that's no good. That's no good, dog. That's no good. We have to do a little bit better than that. Yeah,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, and he has a large platform. Say what you want, but he does. He has a large platform and people listen and things
Right.
happen.
Hmm. Um, I want to go back to your time in HR.
Mhm.
You mentioned that you just end up being kind of fed up and having to leave. What were, I think like the role of being in HR is so interesting because we think of it as like them having a lot of power, but really at the end of the day, they're employees as well, and they kind of have to answer to other people. What was, can you share a little bit more about your experience and why you ended up deciding to leave?
Um, I think whenever you go into a particular profession, we sort of have this idealistic viewpoint of what that is going to be until you actually get into it and you begin to see that it is not anything like you thought. Because I'm thinking, oh, HR, it's nice. You're giving people opportunities, you're meeting new people, you're watching people start from the bottom, going all the way to the top. But no, you don't think about all of the legalities. You don't think about when you think about you don't think about people's personal situations that affect them in the workplace and how another person can view that as BS. They can use it against them when it comes to them being ill. It comes to the hiring, firing, or promoting of a person. You never stop to really think. It's not, and these aren't things that you don't know, but you just maybe don't think about it. Because you have these high expectations about how you're going to be able to come in there and do this and do that, and and it becomes a sour grape. You ever hear someone say, "Oh, I want to go into social work or something like that, and because I want to help people," but then once they get in there, or a teacher, then you find out it's all about the money. It's not about the students. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about people who are suffering. It's a business, and I think that is kind of what happened, because when you come and you start trying to help people, because HR is supposed to they're supposed to have your back, correct? And when you begin to go through the process with people, regardless of what the problem or issue is at the moment, the employment lawyers, the HR directors, the unions are all in the pocket of the company.
Mm.
And when I begin to sort of, kind of peep that game, I was disgusted. I was floored. Inappropriate conversations that, if it was brought to the forefront, would be grounds for employment discrimination. Um, People being sick with terminal illnesses, and you're harassing them. They're trying to heal and take care of themselves, and you're harassing them when they're coming back, and threatening that if they don't come back in this way or that way, or forcing people to sign paperwork, for particular types of leaves that they should. You can't do those things. But
Right.
when I always tell people, and it's also, on the other hand, it's surprising to me when people get hired, that when that policy book is given to you, that people don't even read it. They just want a job. They don't read anything.
Right.
So it's easy when you don't read and you don't know what those policies are. If it comes to dress codes, if it comes to different types of leave, like maternity leaves, if you're ill, insurance, what's appropriate and not appropriate in the workplace, all these different types of things are in these books, and people just throw them to the side. And then you get your behind handed to you, because now you have the supervisor or superior, creating a paper trail on you for every little thing that you do, and you have nothing. And then if you allow certain things to happen and you don't make issue of it, you don't go to your union, you don't make a grievance with the EEOC, you don't make a certain type of report, a director or a supervisor, every time someone calls for a reference, it doesn't matter what your performance was, but if you had one altercation or two with someone, you just bumped heads, then they're talking crap about you, and you can't get another job. So they're affecting your livelihood, and these are things that people don't talk about. And I see people allowing employers to get away with, and your hands are tied, because it's that professional side where you have to kind of create this kind of like fine line between, I'm a professional, but I want to give this person the real tea about what they really need to be doing. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
you can't, because then your job's in jeopardy, and it's just a mess. It was just too much. I saw too much behind the scenes that I never fathomed that I would have to be witness to. And like I said, I consider myself a righteous person, and it stressed me out. I seen some horrible stuff. I'll give you one thing that always sticks out in my mind. In my particular job, we had like temps that would come in. Some of these temps would come back, and they'll do that for years. I guess they had other gigs or whatever, but if we needed them, they would come back and they would work. And it was one fateful night. We were talking about how bad the storms were over where you stay, and she came in to work a night shift, right? And she went out like we all do to grab a snack. It was her little break, and unfortunately was hit by a vehicle in the dark, crossing in the rain. And you know how it could be dark in the rain. Where
Right.
the building was, it's like a hill, so if you're not going to see anyone in the dark in dark clothing until you come up on that hill, and so car took her out. I had to witness my superior say, call this woman who lost her life working for you and had been doing so as a temp for many years on and off, stupid. Huh?
Mm.
This woman, she had even been deceased not even 24 hours. And I was like, nah, nope.
Man.
that was it for me. It really struck a chord with me, and I'm like, you don't belong here. You don't belong here. This is not what we do. That may be a very extreme case, but for me, it was the catalyst to say, nah, it's time for you to get on out of here. Start to sort of figure out what is it that you want to do. I had writing children's books was had been itching at me for a long time. I was going through
Mm-hmm.
the whole fibroid thing at the in we're me and my husband trying to conceive. I had nothing keeping me there. I was fortunate enough to have a husband, that I can just quit if I wanted to.
Right.
I did that. I was like, this is stressful. This is stressful. This is ignorant. This is unlawful. This is immoral. And to find out, this particular supervisor, she was eventually terminated, because it was it was just way beyond me. You have to look at families. Her husband, he wanted nothing to do with the company. No, don't send flowers to her funeral. No, don't call me. You know what I mean? Because she's probably shared in when she was alive, the dysfunction in the toxic work environment that she was working in. And if I'm seeing this at another level,
Mm-hmm.
on the other side, it's sort of backstage. I only can imagine what the workers were experiencing. So I just could not do it anymore. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And it was a rude awakening for me to find out that, these jobs don't care about you. So I would always tell people, if you are working a 9 to 5 gig, when you sign on to a new job, know your policy books backward and frontwards. Okay, do not get rid of it. Do not throw it away. I would even advise you to put it in a safe somewhere where you're not going to be looking for it. It's going to get lost, so you can pull that out. Know all sources of contact. Know what the protocol is if problems arise, and create a paper trail and or a journal. Be careful who you talk to, because don't think because you're talking to your HR person or your union person that they're not going back to your supervisors and having these conversations. These are things that sometimes people that should not really be happening, but they happen. Of course, there's certain conversations that have to be had because there's
Mm-hmm.
layers and different, processes that go in this department has to talk to this department. They go hand in hand, but there are certain private conversations that are totally confidential that should not no. So if you're having a dispute with your boss, why are they being told everything that you understand what I'm saying? There's certain
Right.
things they no, it's not a healthy thing. And sometimes, and if you have a great HR department, and that's great, but unfortunately we hear a lot of stories. I'm just was helping someone out who just recently lost their job because they wore a Black Lives Matter a mask. Now everyone's wearing support the police mask. They're wearing American flags mask. They're wearing Make America Great mask, but you can't come in and wear your Black Lives Matter mask. He totally was
Mm-hmm.
escorted out because he refused to. And so even though I don't work in HR, it just helps. These are the steps that you need to follow, and an investigation has been launched, but he's still without a job. We're dealing with the coronavirus, and people's lives have changed, and it's hard, and it's just just kind of reminded me of how wrong like some of these businesses, and they know it, but if you don't know what your rights are as an employee, these
Mm-hmm.
are the type of thing. It's ugly, man, and I just couldn't hack it. I don't have that type of temperament and personality, and I had to exit on out of there.
Mm-hmm. I feel you. Yeah, it's I'm glad you were able to be in a space where you could like leave that environment, because yeah, that's a rough place to be in, especially as an HR person, because
Mhm.
you're basically have to be you're like the balancing act, or
You
supposedly
do,
the balancing act between everyone, and that's a
you
rough
do,
place to
you do.
be.
And psychiatrists, people come with all types of situations. It's just it takes a certain type of person, but when you're in a situation like that environment and it's that bad because of a couple of people, if they were removed, maybe things would improve somewhat. It just means a whole new restructuring, and people have to speak up and speak out, and
Mhm.
unfortunately a lot of people don't, because people are like, I'm not rocking the boat. I got family. Well, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change for you. Nothing's going to change for everybody else. You have to expose these people. And, there are a lot of anonymous lines where you can call and report things that aren't right. Do it. For those investigations can be unleashed, and people can be taken care of. But it was a lot. Anybody who
Right.
doesn't understand, depending on where you are, on that ladder. But it was a mess. It was a mess. It was very,
Mhm.
uh, ugh, it was hostile. It was
Man.
very toxic.
You know, this actually leads me to a question I like to ask everybody.
Mhm.
How would you define professionalism?
Um, I would define professionalism. It goes right in line with everything that I've said here today. Be yourself. Be yourself. Be unapologetically yourself. What does my skin color, my religion, my culture, how many kids I have, who I'm married to, what does that got to do if I'm coming into work every day doing the job that you are paying me to do? Okay. Being an entrepreneur is a little bit different because you have freedom, and you're not worried so much about, you know, a power structure, because you're the power structure. You make up the rules. But when I was in that situation, yeah, there are times where it's not so easy to say F everything and I'm going to just quit, or, because you got kids, you got families, you got mortgages, car notes, you got to get to and from work, you got to feed people. But that is what professionalism is to me. I don't think anyone should have the right to deny me access, to anything just based on that. If I'm performing the duties and I have the skill set, then allow me to be great.
Wonderful. I like that. Everyone usually kind of gives like a different kind of twist on it. And I like to get everyone's opinion because that is, I mean, kind of back to what we are saying about words matter. That's definitely a word that's been used to keep Black people from rising through things like referring to our
Hmm.
hair as unprofessional, referring to how we behave, how we speak, all these different things as unprofessional. So,
Hmm.
well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I want to transition a little to talk a little bit more about your book, which I mean, I said before, but I really do love it. I love how you put it together, the way you put it together. And I think it's a really, really strong resource. And I personally learned something from it as well. Um,
Good.
and one thing, well, there's a couple things actually, but I really like the section with the different affirmations
Hmm.
that you had in there that people could use. And I'm wondering, like, when you are speaking to, I guess, like your 5 year old,
Hmm.
how do you kind of teach her to start using affirmations in her own life?
I kind of incorporate them into everyday life when we're getting dressed, when we're eating, if we're out and about, and even playing with toys. I remind her that, when I'm doing her hair, oh, I'll say, if I'm brushing her hair and I'm pulling it into an afro puff, oh, your hair is so beautiful today. Look in the mirror, look at your hair. And she says, oh, my hair is pretty. She'll do those things. Right now, she's going through this phase where she loves Bantu knots. She does not call them Bantu knots. She calls them snails, because when you twist them, they look
Oh yeah.
like. So she says, Mommy, I want snails. I want to have pretty snails in my hair. So it's just affirming that your hair is beautiful. I'll throw something in. I'll have one like she loves Princess Tiana from Disney's The Princess and the Frog.
Hmm.
When she looks at that particular doll, she'll say, "Oh, I'm just like Tiana. She has brown skin like me." So I'll like just kind of like feed it to her that way, to reaffirm that, this doll you think is beautiful. She's a princess. You love the story that you look like that and you can relate to that image, and it kind of builds her up at her level, at a 5-year-old's level. You understand what I'm saying? I'm really
Yeah.
conscious of what she watches, because she is in this stage of loving video games and those YouTube like cartoons and little videos. But you have to
Hmm.
be careful, because sometimes the imagery says something different. As innocent as it appears, it says something different. And I'll give you an example. There was one particular, I think it was teaching her like her ABCs, and there was this whole gang of animals. They were the main characters, but the wolf, he was colored black, and he would come and he would rob. He would be the bully. He would be the one scaring them. And she made a statement like, black is evil. Whoa, whoa, wait, what? Not in this house. So guess what? That taught me, even though I'm paying attention, and as innocent as these things are, we have to pay even more attention because sometimes those things are hidden. I never told her that black was evil. Like I said, we're blackly black in our home. We're very proud of our culture and to be black. And I thought I was doing a good job, but do you understand how outside influences creep on in there? We can't protect our kids from everything. So we have to be very vigilant. We have to be on it. And so I had to kind of sit her down and explain to her, no, black is not evil. This is a character. It has nothing to do with his color. It was just a whole thing. But yeah, so you just have to sort of counteract those things when they come, but you have to be very strategic and very matter of fact in what you expose your children to and what you say to them and what you say around them, because children become what they live. If I'm saying one thing to her, but she's seeing me say and do things around the house, and it's just not going to matter all those good things that I'm trying to instill in her. So she's at a point now where it's just like, oh, she's on the hair thing. She just loves hair. I think she understands hair more than she understands, I think, skin color and what that means right now. Mm-hmm. To her, it's just a color, but she doesn't get it, you know what I mean, quite yet.
Right.
But the hair thing, she definitely gets. I don't know if it's a girl and she's kind of girly and, but she definitely gets the hair thing. And even like with the book, she'll say, I love my curls. And, so
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's just every day you just tie it in, or we just tie it into what we do and just reaffirm that, hey, it's okay. You're beautiful. Mm-hmm. And, your hair is beautiful, your skin's beautiful, your eyes, whatever thing, she's got a beautiful smile. We'll just pick out something every day and just, let her know, build her up.
That's pretty awesome. You actually make me think about, like, I know growing up, my mom was very intentional about kind of different things that were in the house and like what I was watching on TV as well. Like some things that went a little too far with like Digimon, but there's some things like she definitely was on it, and I have to give her credit. But I just thinking, like, I remember in my room I had this kind of small poster, but it had it was like 10 Black founders and inventors, like US people in the US. And I just think of like things like that. So I always saw that growing up. So it's kind of just that visual reinforcement that Black people can end up creating these like amazing things.
Yes, and they definitely can. Yeah. They can. And even like the books that we buy her now that she's going to be entering into kindergarten, I feel is very important for us to sort of get on top of the things that she's not really going to be learning once she enters into the public school system. So, every book that I've bought in probably the last year has been a book with diverse characters, or if not at all black characters, because I think it's really important for her to not only learn about her history in different places, her culture, is by books that represent who she is, and right. It's working. And being a writer, I've met a lot of great Black writers, and I'll just buy their book, and and share it with her, and it has done wonders. It's like she just loves it, and she carries those books around like she would carry a stuffed animal around, and that's how deep. Yeah, that's how deep she's into it. And there's one particular book that she really loves. It's about a father. It's about a father who does all these amazing things, but his daughter's like, my daddy, doesn't wear capes like other superheroes, but these are the normal everyday things that my daddy does for me and my family. And it was such a wonderful book that happened to come around Father's Day, and that is her and her dad's favorite book to read together, because there's not a whole lot of books. I mean, my book can be for anybody, but it is a little bit more for little girls. But there's not a whole lot of books that uplift Black fathers and Black men, and where they can share what it is to be not only a father but a Black father. We don't get the images so much. So she just loves that book. She just she just adores it. So
That's really cool. And that probably helps strengthens their bond too.
It does, the reading time.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right. Well, I want to transition a little to kind of talk about your own natural hair journey.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually shared something really interesting to me about your decision to go natural. But can you share with everyone, do you remember what type of things or what inspired you to start your lock journey?
What inspired me for my lock journey? I think I've done it all. I did the big chop. I wore the afros. I've worn braids, and I didn't feel like satisfied, and I didn't think my hair thrived wearing those styles. So the next thing was locks. I've always wanted to go to get locks, but I was in that period on my journey where I wasn't sure if I wanted to commit to locks, because when you get locks, it is a commitment. It is a commitment. It is no changing. It is no, it's a whole different type of journey. So when I decided to get locks, it for me, it wasn't really a spiritual thing, but it did become a lifestyle thing, if that makes sense. Because I'm not like a Rastafari. You're like, you get all these weird questions. And I'm like, nah, I just think for me, it is the best style for my texture of hair and type of hair. It's a lifestyle that I've been living for quite some time. In this natural hair journey, I've done everything. So it was a natural progression to discover, and speaking with professionals and locticians. Shout out to Renee, my loctician. We went through a whole education before I decided I wanted to commit and to do this. And I wish I would have done it way way sooner. My hair thrives. I feel the most beautiful, the most confident. Everywhere I go, it's a conversation piece. It's an art piece. There's some styles that I wear that, I mean, it's art, man. It's really art. It's interesting because your lock journey is just like your natural hair journey, because there's people don't understand if you don't wear locks sometimes that there are different phases that your locks actually go through. And it's great to count when you first get them how many locks you have, how they change, things that you can do versus what you can't do, the products that you use, how quick. I'm amazed at how quickly my hair has grown. My hair hasn't been like this length since I was like a kid, and it grow like every time I go, I'm like, what? I call it time. So my hair, it really thrives. My hair type loves it. I think it's beautiful. It's fitting. It's art. It shows. It's a lifestyle. I would never change this. I'm locked for life. I'm locked for life. And that's kind of how I made that transition, because I tried everything. It was through trial and error, and you kind of find out what styles work best for you, what doesn't work for you. And locks, definitely my hair, it just loves it. And it's the best decision that I've ever made. And my daughter, she also has her hair locked, my oldest daughter. So
oh yeah,
yeah,
cool.
she also entered into her journey, with locks. So, and it was interesting because the process was different. She started hers off with 2-strand twists from from jump, and then my process was a little bit different. So it's a wonderful journey, and I'm kind of new to it still, but I'm learning. I just love it. I just love it.
Yeah. And they look great too. Um,
Yeah.
you said your daughter, you said she went to Howard?
Howard, yes.
Howard? Okay, cool. Very cool. Do you know if she or how long has she had locks?
She's had lots, going on close to like a year.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so she's pretty new, but she started them off with two strand twist, um, which was kind of a natural progression because that was like her go-to hairstyle anyway.
Oh,
when
we're
she
yeah.
Yeah, she always had her hair twisted because, being a student, you don't have time to always obsess about your hair. And
Mhm.
that was one of her go-to hairstyles. So it was very funny when she started off that was one of the options given to her due to her texture of hair that probably would be the best way to start her lock journey. And she went ahead and did it because being on a college campus, you always got to be cute, Howard, yeah, you're there for the
Right.
those kids.
Right.
they
It's more than education.
and she got kind of caught up in the wig thing for a minute and the braids, but then she just said, no, I'm going to go there and start this lock journey. This is something I wanted to do, and she did it. And she said the same thing. Like I said, there's no going backwards. It's like the best decision that she ever, she ever made, and people love it. They're like, hey, look at you. They love it. And she's been very
Right.
accepting of any, backlash when you're in this environment where that may not be um, the go-to aesthetic for a lot of the girls on that campus. And you would think it would be a little bit different because you're at a HBCU, like you would think everyone's walking around natural, but no, it's just a reflection of society. Some people are
Right.
natural, some people aren't.
Mhm. Very cool. All right. Well, Janae, you gave us a lot, and I'm really excited to also kind of share like links to your book
Oh,
because
sure.
it really is really cool. And I know it's like everywhere too, so it's like you can't not miss it. Like you're gonna find it somewhere. But
Yeah.
is there anything else that you wanted to share with everyone?
Um, I would definitely say, if you want to find out more about natural hair, more about the book, you can follow me on my social media, at ilovemycurlsbook.com. If you are looking to purchase my book, I'm not sure if you can see it here.
Hmm.
You can find it on Amazon. You can order it from my site. But like you said earlier, it's a book that teaches young girls to appreciate their natural hair. It's also a great conversation piece for parents to broach the conversation about natural hair, what it is, how to care for it. It makes it much easier. It's not about the story for me, it's about the education in the back of the book and in the resource guide. That really resonates. I wanted to create a short story just to go along with it, to have a visual where little girls could relate to it and see different hairstyles of a character that looked like them and represented them. But it's more to me about the education and learning your natural hair. And there's affirmations as well that can help reinforce those ideas, and also some cute activities that the kids can do. I have a few more projects that are launching that are going to sort of follow this mission of mine. But I do think it's a great book, but I do think that's the one thing that makes my book unique. It's just not about the little short story. It's more about the education. It encompasses it all. So it's a learning tool more than anything. I want people to understand. But yeah, it starts when the kids are young. There's too many negative messaging that's getting into our kids at very, very young ages, and we need to combat it. If we learn a language between 0 to 5 years, don't you think that would probably be the age point or range where we really need to be reinforcing self-love and of who we are, of our culture, of our natural hair? And before they get out there and the world gets a hold of them, and it's a bit too late, and they have to go through those same traumas and those experiences that we've had to go through um unnecessarily, because hey, we have the tools, we have a platform now where it's more acceptable to talk about these things out in the open and instill these thought processes within our children.
Hmm. I love it. Yeah. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. And also, just to double down what you mentioned, like your book, I think it's really cool because you're right. I think usually what we get is the story that is empowering in itself, but you actually took it a step further and like, all right, here's the story. Now here's a how to. And you gave a
Exactly.
like a good list of how tos, like really keep people busy. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
did,
okay.
and that's what a lot of people, really appreciate. When they come back, they say, you know what, I really learned about my type of hair because I'm not really into the hair typing thing. I come from a place when you learn what your curl pattern is, it's easier to take care and maintain it. It's not about one type is better than the other, not for me. But when you come into
Hmm.
caring for your hair, you need to understand what's coming out of your scalp.
Right.
So yeah, so it really resonates with people, hair health, appreciation of natural hair, and as kids get older, like the types of discussions we've had today, we make it an appropriate discussion to move into talking about now you're here. How does your hair affect you at work? What type of professions are you going into, and what is that experience going to be like? And I would hope that the generations that are coming after me, after you, aren't going to have as much of an issue with these types of topics when just your hair. I hope that change is going to kind of happen for them and they feel the freedom that, okay, well, if the establishment is telling me I can't do this, then I have the freedom to build my own business or do things that I don't have to worry and put up with these types of this type of policing any
Hmm.
longer. So hopefully that's where we're moving here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to thank you because I honestly feel like what you're doing through all the work you do in your book, it is helping the movement progress because sometimes it's just about kind of direction and the how to. And I think this year, what you're doing is a very strong step towards forwards in the whole movement. So thank you. Yeah. And also thank you for coming on. I really enjoy speaking to you.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
All right, y'all, that's a wrap for today, but please do yourself a favor and go to bosslocks.org right now. We're at the beginning of something great, and I don't want you to miss out. Not only can you learn more about our guests, follow them and on all the platforms that they exist on, but you can also join the Boss Locks Village. The Boss Locks Village will be the place to stay in the loop and get things before anyone else. All you do is visit bosslocks.org, that is BossLocks.org, to learn how to join the village. And I also want to thank you for listening to Boss Locks. We're here to redefine professionalism, prove that natural hair and professionalism do coexist, and elevate Black voices. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the village.